I-37M. It started 2 years ago when my sister Camilla, 42F, was going through a messy divorce with Noah. My niece Lucia, 17F, was caught in the middle of it all, and watching her try to keep her grades up while her parents fought over everything broke my heart. One night, Lucia called me crying because she'd overheard her parents arguing about not being able to afford her college fund anymore. She's always been a straight-A student, president of the science club, and has dreamed of becoming a doctor since she was little. The thought of her not being able to pursue that because of her parents' issues didn't sit right with me. My wife Vivian and I are comfortable financially, and we don't have kids of our own. We talked it over and decided to set up an education fund for Lucia. When I told Camilla about it, she broke down crying, hugging me and saying I was saving their future. We set up a dedicated account where I deposit $2,000 monthly. The agreement was simple. The money was strictly for Lucia's education. Everything seemed fine for the first year and a half. Lucia would send me updates about her college research, scholarship applications, and her excitement about potentially getting into her dream schools. But about 6 months ago, I started noticing something odd. Camilla began posting pictures of herself at expensive resorts. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe she was treating herself after the divorce. Then came the new car. When family members commented on it, she'd say things like, "I'm just better at budgeting now," or "I picked up some extra work." I still didn't want to jump to conclusions. Last month, Lucia mentioned she was worried because she hadn't received her acceptance package from her top choice school. She'd been accepted early decision, but they needed the first semester's payment to finalize everything. When she told me this, something felt off. According to my calculations, there should have been more than enough in the account to cover it. I logged into the account to check the balance. My stomach dropped. Instead of the roughly $48,000 that should have been there, the balance was just under $1,000. I felt sick. The transaction history showed dozens of withdrawals, all made in person at various bank branches. I dug deeper and found regular transfers to another account. Some were labeled as emergency medical expenses or textbook fees, but the amounts and timing didn't make sense. $3,000 withdrawn the same week Camilla posted about her spontaneous trip to the Bahamas. $5,000 gone right before she got that new car. Yesterday, I received a text from Lucia asking if we could talk about her tuition payment. She mentioned that her mom had been acting strange whenever she brought up college lately, changing the subject or getting irritated. That's when everything clicked. I haven't confronted Camilla yet. I've documented everything and have screenshots of all the transactions. Part of me is still hoping there's some explanation that doesn't mean my sister stole her daughter's future. But every time I think about Lucia's face when she talks about medical school, about how hard she's worked, I feel this rage building up. I'm meeting with a friend who works in finance tomorrow to review everything before I talk to Camilla. My wife thinks I should involve Noah since he's still Lucia's father and has a right to know, but I'm worried that'll just make everything more complicated. The hardest part is seeing Lucia's texts about college plans, knowing what I know now. She sent me one this morning about dorm room ideas she's been saving on Pinterest. I couldn't bring myself to respond. I keep thinking about how Camilla hugged me that day, thanking me for saving their future. Now I'm wondering if she was planning this all along. The thought makes me sick. I know I need to tell Lucia the truth, but I'm terrified of crushing her dreams. She deserves so much better than this. I've already started looking into loans and other options to make sure she can still go to school, but I'm so angry that it's come to this. My phone's been blowing up with texts from Camilla about meeting up to discuss Lucia's plans. The last one says she has something important to tell me. I have a feeling I know exactly what kind of story she's prepared. I'm meeting with them both tomorrow. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to let Camilla try to explain first or if I should just lay out everything I've found. Either way, I know tomorrow is going to change everything. Update 1. I honestly didn't expect my last post to blow up like it did. Thank you for all the support and advice. A lot has happened in the last 24 hours and I need to process it all. I met with my friend Oliver yesterday morning before the confrontation. He went through all the bank statements with me, and it was worse than I initially thought. The emergency withdrawals started small, a few hundred here and there. Then they grew larger and more frequent. Oliver pointed out a pattern. The withdrawals usually happened right before Camilla's social media posts about her self-care trips and shopping sprees. The total amount missing came to $47,236. Nearly 2 years of deposits gone. Oliver suggested I file a police report, but I wanted to talk to Camilla first. Maybe there was something I was missing. Maybe she had moved the money to a different account for better interest rates. I knew I was grasping at straws, but this was my sister. I asked Camilla to meet me at our usual coffee shop, the one where we used to meet every Sunday before her divorce. I got there early and watched her pull up in her new car, the one that apparently cost my niece's first semester of college. She walked in smiling, ordered her fancy latte, and sat down like it was just another normal day. "So what's this about Lucia's college fund?" she asked, stirring her coffee. "I've been meaning to talk to you about that. Things are a bit tight right now and I was hoping." I placed the bank statements on the table. Her sentence trailed off as her eyes fixed on the papers. The color drained from her face, but only for a moment. Then something changed in her expression. "Are you spying on my accounts?" she snapped, pushing the statements away. "That's private information." "Private? This is Lucia's education fund. The one I set up, the one you've been stealing from." "Stealing?" She laughed, but it was harsh. "I'm her mother, that money was for her future. I'm taking care of her future. By spending it on vacations, a new car, explain to me how that helps Lucia's future." That's when she exploded. "You have no idea what it's like. Do you know how hard it's been since Noah left? Lucia needs a stable home, a mother who isn't breaking down. Those vacations were mental health breaks so I could be there for her." I kept my voice low, aware of people starting to look our way. The agreement was for education expenses only. Lucia's been accepted to her dream school and now there's no money for tuition. "It's none of your business how I spend that money. You're just trying to control me like everyone else, like Noah did. This isn't about you, Camilla, it's about Lucia's future. She's been working toward this her whole life." Her next words stopped me cold. Well, maybe she needs to learn that life isn't fair. Maybe working for a few years before college would teach her some responsibility. I stood up. "Lucia is more responsible at 17 than you're being right now at 42. I'm going to tell her everything." "You can't." Camilla grabbed my arm. "She'll hate me, I'm her mother. You should have thought about that before you spent her future." What happened next was surreal. Camilla started crying, loudly, drawing attention from everyone in the coffee shop. She switched between begging me not to tell Lucia and threatening to sue me for harassment and emotional distress. I left her there and drove straight to Lucia's school. I couldn't let her hear this from anyone else. She was in the library during her free period, working on scholarship applications. When I told her everything, she just sat there, completely still, staring at her laptop screen where her college's website was open. Finally, she asked, "Can I stay with you and Aunt Vivian for a while?" I didn't hesitate, of course. That's when my phone started blowing up. Camilla had apparently called every family member, telling them I was trying to turn her daughter against her. My aunt called to tell me I was destroying the family. My mother texted saying I should have handled this privately, but then something unexpected happened. Noah, my former brother-in-law, called. He'd heard everything from Lucia. He was livid. Turns out Camilla had been asking him for extra money for Lucia's college expenses this whole time. He's already talking to his lawyer. I'm writing this from my home office. Lucia is asleep in our guest room. Vivian is looking into legal options. My phone keeps buzzing with messages from family members taking sides. Camilla's latest text says she's going to make me regret this. I should feel terrible about how everything exploded, but watching Lucia quietly pack a bag at her mom's house while Camilla screamed about family loyalty killed any doubt I had. The same girl who used to beg me to play doctor with her toy medical kit might not get to become a real doctor because her mother decided vacations were more important. Oliver's coming over tomorrow to help me look into legal option. Noah's lawyer wants to meet, and somewhere in the middle of all this, I need to figure out how to help Lucia stay on track for her dreams. Camilla just texted again. Apparently she's found some interesting information about my finances that my wife might want to know about. I have no idea what she's talking about, but I'm starting to realize this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Update 2, the last week has been absolute chaos. I didn't think things could get more complicated after the confrontation at the coffee shop, but somehow they did. Remember how Camilla threatened to make me regret this? Well, she tried. 3 days ago, I received a letter from her lawyer claiming I had fraudulently misappropriated funds that were rightfully designated for family use. The letter demanded I repay all the money Camilla had borrowed from the account, plus damages for emotional distress. When I showed it to Oliver, he actually laughed. But here's where it gets interesting. While gathering documentation for our response, Oliver noticed something odd about the timing of some withdrawals. They didn't match up with bank hours. He dug deeper and found that someone had been accessing the account online using my credentials. I hadn't given anyone my login information. Ever. The only person who could have gotten it was Camilla. From when she used my laptop to check her email during Thanksgiving last year, she must have seen the password saved in my browser. Noah's lawyer was particularly interested in this detail. Turns out in our state, using someone else's banking credentials is a serious offense. But that wasn't even the biggest surprise. Remember that interesting information about my finances that Camilla threatened to tell Vivian about? Apparently, she'd been telling family members that I had a gambling problem and had been stealing from Lucia's fund myself. She even created fake screenshots showing transfers to online betting sites. The screenshots were what did her in. She'd edited them poorly, the dates didn't match the transaction times, and some of the numbers didn't add up. When confronted with this, her lawyer quietly withdrew from the case. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. My aunt, the same one who accused me of destroying the family, called me yesterday. She was in tears. Apparently, Camilla had pulled the same scheme with her last year, borrowing $20,000 for Lucia's college application fees that she never repaid. She'd been too embarrassed to tell anyone. This opened the floodgates. Two more relatives came forward with similar stories. One had given her $15,000 for Lucia's medical insurance. Another had co-signed a loan that Camilla claimed was for advanced placement courses. Lucia has been handling all this with remarkable strength. She's still staying with us, focusing on her studies. Yesterday, she found her old piggy bank in her room at Camilla's house, the one where she'd been saving her babysitting money for medical school supplies since she was 14. Empty, Noah has been surprisingly supportive through all this. He admitted he should have paid more attention to the financial side of things during their marriage. He's working with his bank to trace years of suspicious transaction. Each discovery makes me wonder how long this pattern has been going on. The family dynamics have shifted dramatically. Those who initially defended Camilla have gone quiet after seeing the evidence. My mother, who told me to handle things privately, now won't even take Camilla's calls. It's like watching a house of cards collapse. This morning, Oliver called with news that made my blood run cold. He found another account, opened in Lucia's name, that we hadn't known about. Apparently, Camilla had been receiving checks from Noah for Lucia's expenses all this time. Separate from child support, that money's gone too, Camilla's response to all this. She checked herself into a wellness retreat, claiming the stress of being attacked by her family was affecting her health. She posted a long Facebook status about toxic family members and learning to prioritize self-care. The comments section is a battleground. We have a meeting with the district attorney tomorrow. Noah's lawyer thinks this goes beyond civil court now. The amount of money involved, the identity theft, the pattern of fraud, it's serious. Part of me still struggles with the idea of my sister facing legal consequences, but then I look at Lucia working on scholarship applications at our dining room table, and I know this has to stop. Vivian found some old videos last night. Lucia at 12, playing hospital with her stuffed animals, wearing a toy stethoscope I got her for Christmas. She was already talking about medical school then. We're not letting that dream die. I just got a text from an unknown number. It's a screenshot of more bank statements with a message. Would be a shame if everyone knew where the money really went. I'm not even worried anymore. We have the truth on our side. Lucia just asked me to help her prep for an interview with the college financial aid office tomorrow. She wants to explain her situation herself. That's more courage than her mother has shown through this whole mess. The DA's office wants to meet with everyone Camilla has borrowed from. I have a feeling we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. Final updates. 6 months later and everything has finally settled. What happened wasn't just justice, it was karma at its absolute finest. Turns out those bank statements Camilla once threatened to expose were just the tip of the iceberg. The DA's investigation uncovered she had been running the same financial scams on multiple family members for years, stealing over $180,000, always using her children's education as the excuse. But here, where it gets interesting, Camilla kept detailed records of every lie, every manipulation, and which emotional triggers worked best on different relatives. Her notebook read like a con artist's playbook. That very record became her downfall. Meanwhile, Noah's lawyer kept digging and discovered hidden assets Camilla had stashed away during their divorce, money she had secretly transferred into a separate account for years. The judge wasn't amused. The court reopened their settlement, awarded Noah full custody of their younger son, and ordered Camilla to repay every cent she had hidden plus punitive damages. The look on her face when the judge ruled, unforgettable. Lucia moved in with us permanently. Her college was incredibly understanding, and after letters of support from other parents, she received scholarships and grants covering most of her tuition. She started pre-med this fall, but the sweetest karma. That wellness retreat Camilla bragged about, she had been funding it with a credit card in Lucia's name. When the fraud department got involved, it exposed years of identity theft. Camilla had been opening credit cards, taking out loans, and even leasing a car using her children's identities. The luxury lifestyle she flaunted, built entirely on stealing from her own kids. Last month, Camilla was sentenced to 3 years in prison, followed by 5 years of probation. She now has to repay every victim, including her children. The judge even structured her monthly restitution payments to match the amount she spent on her last Bahamas vacation. The family members who once defended her are mortified as their own stories of being conned emerge. Even my mother, who once urged me to handle things privately, helped gather evidence. Turns out Camilla had borrowed $35,000 from her to cover my gambling problem, a problem that never existed. Yesterday, Lucia got her first semester grades, straight A's. She taped them to our fridge next to her research lab schedule. That same day, we received notice that Camilla's appeals were denied. She claimed to have a shopping addiction and needed treatment, not punishment. The judge disagreed. And it didn't stop there. Remember the dirt Camilla claimed to have on me? She tried selling a fake story to local news about financial misconduct at my company. The resulting investigation, it exposed her own embezzlement from her workplace. Now her former employer is pressing charges. With Oliver's help, we set up a new education trust for Lucia, this time with ironclad protection. Family members she scammed have been chipping in to help rebuild her future, not just financially but through textbooks, care packages, and support. Camilla's social media, gone, but not before she made one last post claiming I had orchestrated a vast conspiracy against her. The comments section was flooded with people sharing their own stories of her scams. She deleted her accounts the next day. This morning, Lucia showed me her application essay for a prestigious summer medical program. She wrote about resilience, about learning that sometimes the hardest lessons come from those closest to you. She got accepted with a full scholarship. And the final stroke of irony, that self-care retreat Camilla escaped to is now under investigation for fraud. Apparently, she wasn't their only client funding their stay with stolen money. Her attempt to dodge consequences only exposed more of her schemes. As for me, I've learned that the best revenge isn't something you plan, it's simply letting someone's own actions catch up with them. Camilla spent years building a house of cards, and all I had to do was refuse to keep playing. Lucia just left for her evening lab session, wearing the stethoscope Noah got her for Christmas. She's thinking about specializing in forensic medicine, something about being inspired by recent events.